All right, y'all. So, welcome to our version of the Breaking Bread with Good Stock Consulting. We are officially the version of Table Talk. My name is Jocelyn Rogers. I have my co-hosts Tanya and Natalie. Just to give you a little bit about me, I am born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. Currently reside. I work at the University of South Carolina in clinical research. I have been with Good Stock Consulting since August of last year. I'm their health communications coordinator. Pretty much our purpose of doing this. So Good Stock has been super busy lately. They have their Breaking Bread segment, which the three ladies do on their own, and they also have the podcast, The B Word Unpacked. So they do have seasons throughout the year. So since they're currently recording for the B Word Unpacked, they are tasking us with being their facilitators for Breaking Bread. So this is our new segment. Welcome. What we're hoping to bring to you guys, and I'll say my piece and I'll let the ladies tell you what they're hoping to bring. Just a different perspective, something from a younger generation, something that is more timely, more or not more timely, but timely for us, impactful for the culture, things like that. So yeah, continue to tune in. We'll be doing this for the next couple months, and we hope you enjoy.
Hi, I'm Tanya Soraya. I currently live in Charleston by way of New York City and by way of Tampa, Florida before that. I'm a clinical psychologist and postdoctoral research fellow at MUSC, which is where I met the lovely Jocelyn. So I just finished my PhD in clinical psychology, and I'm focusing on clinical research, and I see patients related to trauma and substance use. And I'm really excited to be here.
And what are you hoping to bring to the folks?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess maybe the brown voice. I mean, I can't represent all brown people, of course, but maybe just in this group. And maybe somebody who's been in clinical research and also been in the Northeast. So I think those are really different cultures. I'm still getting used to South Carolina and Charleston every day, even in COVID.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Natalie Ocean. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for a healthcare tech startup called MedHall, based in Memphis, Tennessee. Living in Memphis by way of New Jersey originally, and I actually just moved back to Memphis after being in Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I met Jocelyn and indirectly met Tanya. What I'm hoping to bring to this segment, similar to what the other ladies have shared, but I guess also because I'm an inquisitive person and I'm very curious and love asking questions, I'm definitely going to be that person that dig deeper and ask everyone to elaborate or clarify a little bit further. So hopefully you all don't mind the prying, but definitely want to use this space as an opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper and ask questions that we typically may ask as a sidebar that we wouldn't really hear on a public platform. So I hope you guys continue to tune in.
So I do just want to point out, Natalie, did you get a promotion?
I did.
Girl.
Yeah.
What?
Last week.
Oh my gosh, congrats.
It wasn't going
Thank you. Yeah, it happened. LinkedIn knows. Thank you. Very exciting.
Love it.
All right, so we're going to transition now into our highlight section where we're going to kind of bring some things to the forefront that we've want to talk about briefly, not dive too deep into, but just wanted to touch on before we get into the nitty gritty. But one of the things I wanted us to all kind of reflect on, 2020 was a very difficult year for a lot of us. And we all know the pandemic is still going on, but to bring some positive spirits and some hope to the conversation, I really want to know what you all's, or if you have identified your most positive moment of 2020 that you want to highlight and kind of carry through that same energy for the next year. I'll start with mine. I'll say, I think transitioning my job from the previous organization that I was with to the current organization that I'm in, it was definitely a big leap of faith, but it's been nothing but green lights and affirmations ever since I got into this new company. especially with it being more entrepreneurial role, especially with it being a startup, especially with it being in tech. I mean, being in healthcare in general, there's already like the alphabet soup of learning a lot of jargon and learning a lot of terms. But now I have to like sunset that a little bit and then kind of transition into learning a whole bunch of stuff. So I have a whole bunch of venture capital books and books about running a startup and books about being lean in the startup space. So it's been exciting, overwhelming, but definitely the highlight of my 2020.
Yay.
And you were in Times Square on a billboard.
Oh, yeah. That too. I think for me, that hasn't really been a highlight because I didn't get a chance to see it in person. But yes, that was actually absolutely a huge, crazy surprise that I didn't think was going to happen or would ever happen. Like you say, oh, yeah, I want to see my name in lights. You ever watch, there was a show on Nickelodeon, sidebar, called Taina. And the theme song would be like, something, something. You know, I can't wait to see my name.
Yes! Oh my God.
So yeah, I can sing that and actually be like, check.
Yes. Used to love that show. Yes, yes.
I know.
What about you, Tanya?
So I was thinking about this again because right before we started, I was like, oh, I'm going to say something basic. It's probably going to be that my boyfriend and I live together and it's been really nice in COVID. But I actually think on a personal note, finishing my PhD and all the requirements and like being able to call myself doctor, like I didn't realize how much that was going to impact me. I'm not used to it at all. But anyone who's been in, huh?
Like, come on, Dr. Soraya.
Anyone who's been in grad school knows it's like total delay of gratification and there's like constant hoops. So then to be there is so surreal. And even though I transitioned into this role in COVID, it's been such a big milestone to be like, oh, right, like a decade ago, I wanted to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Jocelyn?
Guess it's my turn. I think this sounds superficial to say, but I'm just gonna say it. I think my biggest highlight has been being engaged.
Yes.
Can we get a little flashy flash?
Look, come on.
Get a little head scratch with the left hand. Okay.
But like a lot of like my family and my friends know that I am like unrealistically difficult just as a regular person. And the fact that somebody was like, you know what, you ain't half that bad. So let me go ahead and do this thing with you, right? It's like it's weird and it's been an interesting journey. So and my study started being on y'all study. I done worked on this thing for a year and we finally got it up and running. But I think that has really been my highlight for the year.
Well, that's dope. And I think for that, like now that the year is wrapping up and getting ready to prepare ourselves for 2021, hopefully we'll see like a drifting away of the pandemic, but who knows? But in other words or in other senses, one thing I did want to ask you all too is in regards to New Year's resolutions. So I know a lot of people typically have resolutions around like their physical bodies or wanting to lose weight or wanting to become healthier or whatever, which are all great things. But I think especially after seeing how people's kind of mental and psyches have been affected by COVID, I think it'd be interesting for us to talk for a minute about how we can have New Year's resolutions or thoughts around New Year's resolutions in the sense of mental wellness and other kind of more intuitive wellness behaviors that we can implement in our day-to-day lives, in addition to some of those physical goals that people have. And Tanya, as our resident Dr. Soraya therapist, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about how people can incorporate some of those kind of wellness behaviors or practices into like what they consider for their New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really hard because everything's virtual, but I think the plus is that it's so easy to access therapy right now. That like if that's something people had thought about, and there are so many like low cost or sliding scale clinics where you can just try it out, you know, like just see. And it's so stigmatized, which is such a shame because it's one of the few spaces I think, and like this is why I love therapy. It's like one of the few spaces where you can focus on yourself. Like most people I know spend most of their time focusing on work or somebody else in their life, and they rarely focus on themselves. And I think America is obsessed with like physical change and being able to see that. And so I think it gets like transformed into how can you change your body or your appearance or maintain your youth. instead of like, okay, how can you actually change like in your life and like in your relationships? So I feel like for me, what I have been thinking a lot about is that I can often not be satisfied. Like I want more. Like I'm always like, I want more in this like part of my life or in that part or in this part. And it's like, I'm always pushing the envelope and always trying to maximize time. And I feel like I'm trying to just be more satisfied with what I have. Like that this can be great too. I don't need to always have more and more, or like be searching for what the next thing is.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
respond on that. Go ahead,
yeah,
Nat.
go ahead. No, you take it away.
So I'm gonna respond on that because that's like literally how I have been my entire life. Like I'm always like, of course I can do 3 more things. Of course I can join this many more organizations. Of course I can find a bigger and better job. And it's like COVID has definitely allowed me to just like sit and settle and just not settle, but just like take it easy. You know what I'm saying? And it's been weird because I have engaged in things that I didn't really enjoy, and they didn't last long. And one thing that Sean and I have talked about a lot is I heard a quote from TD Jakes, and he says the reason why everything I touch turns to gold is because I don't touch everything. So it's like you can't do everything, you can't put your hands on everything, you can't try to engage in every opportunity because that doesn't mean that it's right. So yeah, I coincide with that. And I guess I'll answer the question. For me, you know, the ladies know that I've recently gone vegetarian. It's been a month now, y'all. It's been a month. A month.
You
And
stronger than me, girl.
okay, look, and it's been okay. Nobody has died yet. So
Hey, literally, like no animals and everything.
nobody. So
Oh, Nat took that deep.
So I think for me, even when I tell people, they're like, "What? Oh my God, how? You got it, not me." You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I feel like having that discipline and just that power, that mind power to be like, I can do it if I want to do it, and I don't want to. Well, I do want to do it now, but I didn't 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
Just maintaining that discipline and that like mental strength to do whatever it is that you want to do, I think is going to be important for me moving into 2021.
That's awesome to hear.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I think for me, um, I haven't really thought about what my New Year's resolution is going to be, but one thing that I have set on, especially during 2020, is being okay with not being okay and not keeping that not being okayness to myself. Because I think for me, especially as a Black woman, we're always given a label as, oh, you're so strong, or an expectation of being strong. And though I think that there are positive, like, attributes to it. I don't think people mean that in a negative way. I think it can have negative, kind of like indirect impacts. So people assume that you're okay because as a Black woman you should be strong, or assume that you can take some of the brunt of whatever circumstances you're going through because you're, you know, as a Black woman you should be strong. Which to a certain degree, yes, I think I consider myself a strong woman, but there are a lot of times where I'm like, I don't have to put on a face, like I don't have to pretend to smile. I can just not put my camera on for work and I don't have to give a reason why, or I can just not, you know, there are certain things that I can just say no to or not participate in the same way that I would feel like I had to, because I can be okay with not being okay. And I think that really stood out for me, more recently when I transitioned into this job, because the founder and the CEO of the company that I work with, she's been really good and really thoughtful about making sure that not only do we have all the resources we need to do the work that we're doing, but also do we have all the personal tools that we need and the space that we need to be able to keep ourselves at 100% as well. So there's never a pressure of, well, we have to, you know, the weekly team meeting is set at 12 p.m. So you have to always be there. We can be scheduled. We're small enough and thankful for that flexibility that we have. So we're small enough to where we can be agile in that sense. So I think for me, my New Year's resolution in a sense is, one, being okay with not being okay, and also not being afraid to express that outwardly. And then 2, being okay with asking for help, which has always been a struggle for me and continues to be a struggle for me. I'm getting better at it, but I think for me, the biggest first step that I plan on taking once my health insurance kicks in January 1, is seeking therapy, because I know that it's something I've been talking about for at least a year now, and it's been really become necessary for me to want to move forward with in 2021. For personal reasons, professional reasons, just a lot of things that have been happening and a lot of changes happened that I want to kind of get under control.
Well, let me just say I've been therapy probably at least 3 times. I've been to therapy. Me and Sean just finished therapy during COVID, so it had to be over the last 6 months or so. I'm a total advocate for it. I have, in all the states that I've lived in, when I sought therapy, I went above and beyond to make sure I had a Black female therapist. And they are there. And so that if that's important, find it and don't settle. But I know you know that. But no, I think that's a good point. Being okay with not being okay, because how can you always be okay with all this stuff going on and then asking for help? I also struggle with that, but we good. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah, I love that too, Nat. I feel like I want to add that to mine, like just accepting yourself and like not expecting so much out of yourself every day.
Yes. Yeah. We can go on and on, but I know we got to move on.
Okay. I know.
All right, so we about to deep dive. Let's do this. How have your relationships changed? All relationships, families, friends, coworkers. How have they changed with people who are of different races, different backgrounds, ethnicities, related to everything that has been going on last year? How have those relationships and those conversations changed amongst your interactive groups?
Yeah, I'll start with that one. I'll say the relationships with like my circle, so my loved ones, family, friends, have definitely strengthened. I think for me, I've been a little bit more appreciative of the relationships that I had specifically with my friends, because we've always been, and especially because it's kind of been a long distance relationship. So my friends are mostly concentrated in the Northeast, and I've been the one who's like moved the furthest away. And so we've always kind of been good about picking up where we left off and not having to talk every day. There are certain friends that I have to talk to every day, or that we just touch base every day. And there are other friends, actually my best friend, we don't talk every day at all. But like when we do, it's like I want to save these catch-ups for when we have our long 3-hour conversation at 2 a.m, which is like everything to me. So I think that's been not necessarily a change, but like a reminder for me that it's okay that we don't talk every day. And I know that a lot of people are a little fatigued by all the ways that we can connect virtually and stuff, which is another great aspect of what's happened because of COVID. But I think for me, I don't feel forced into having to like check in or do things that are just not natural to our relationships anyway, and that our relationships are still able to be fine. As far as family, because when I moved back from Charleston to Memphis, I'm back in my family's house, hence why there's a TV there. So it's my entertainment space, my office, my sleeping space, my gym, everything is in here. So it's been interesting. Definitely a constant reminder for me to stick to my goals of what I want to do as far as getting out back on my own. But also it's been nice. I felt it just felt so good waking up and like hearing other people around me and like having food and always somewhere in the house for me to reach for and grab. So I think the relationship with my family, I've definitely been a lot more appreciative of them, especially my parents, because, I'm 30 and they don't have to have me back in the house. I'm capable of being on my own, but they know that I have goals in mind and they're very supportive of that. So definitely glad to be home. I think it was everything kind of happened the way it was supposed to happen because of things that have been happening in our family or things that have happened in the past with our family that I had to be here for. So definitely appreciative of the opportunities that kind of brought me to where I am. As far as relationships with like just people in general, specifically with other races, the only thing that I've found interesting, or conversations with those individuals that I found interesting, is specifically around when the kind of racial issues started to become more highlighted and more visible in social media, et cetera, has been, of course, we've heard everyone kind of talk about, there's been an outreach of, oh, how can I help? What can I do? Where can I be helpful? And although I'm appreciative of people acknowledging that that there are spaces for them to do those things, that we can't we shouldn't be I guess we shouldn't be the source of the answers for them. Unless, of course, you do have an answer, then absolutely share that, because I'm not saying ignore them or deprive them of that resource, but it can be a little bit fatiguing or frustrating when all of a sudden, because I posted a Black Lives Matter post on my Instagram, that now everybody wants to, oh, how do I donate, or what can I do, or I didn't know you, like, I didn't realize, et cetera, et cetera. And again, some of that, it's like, okay, I understand why you wouldn't know
Like
that,
I
because
didn't,
like I mentioned before.
I didn't realize you were Black. Help me.
Right. And like I mentioned before, like a lot of people may not have realized that, because like I mentioned, we have to put on a face. Like when I'm at work, I put on a face because I don't want to show people that I'm, you know, you have to, there's all these things against us anyway already, that you just have to leave that shit so when you get, leave that mess when you get home.
Girl.
But yeah, I think it's been interesting in like finding ways to, again, be willing to educate when I feel like I have the energy and the strength to do so, but then also helping them to, or showing people that they can be self-starters in that regard on their own and do their own research, and not necessarily just come with an open and like empty canned question of what can I do to help? Well, I'm sure you've seen a lot of links and a lot of things in the media and a lot of resources that people have been sharing. So I always prefer when people like start on their own and then come to you for like context or additional or like a segue off of that versus, oh, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's rewind back 400 years.
Yeah.
But,
Wait, Nat, has that been happening recently or was this a while ago?
not recently, but this was like around May, June.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, May, June is when it really was like, okay, like you, like we were like great social media acquaintances, but now it's a little annoying. Like there's a heart every time I post this, or there's a comment, or there's a question. And again, great that you're seeing this. And, you know, I can see why you're seeing this now because it's a little bit more concentrated in the visibility of it. But there's something else you could, like, I don't have all the answers for you. I can tell you something, I can show you the link that I have, but the answers that I have may not be, or the questions that you have, I may not have the answers for. So yeah, it's definitely died down since then. Of course, everything has died down after that hype has faded away because, you know, it was just a moment for some people. But yeah, definitely more concentrated around May or June.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you for Jocelyn?
So my friends, similar to Nat, like I feel like we've gotten stronger in a way because I mean a lot of us are home, like a lot of us just feel that need to connect. And so like we want to talk more, we want to find more ways to communicate and things like that. My family, I wouldn't say that we haven't gotten any closer, but you know, we had to celebrate Thanksgiving separately this year via Zoom and that was whatever it was. Um, so we, you know, like Thanksgiving is like my family's big holiday. Like that's the thing that we always get together for. So it really was odd and strange not to be with my aunts, my uncles, and my cousins and stuff like that. I've, I mean, geez, I've never in my 27 years of life ever had to experience Thanksgiving without my family. So that was super weird. Um, in terms of like coworkers and changing of conversations and relationships, ironically enough, with the group of people that we've been working with at the university, I feel a lot strong. I'm about to lie. I feel a lot stronger to majority of y'all than I did a year ago, y'all being Tanya, and I feel a little on the fence about some people. But colleagues of mine who I maybe didn't communicate with as much or who I just wasn't interested in communicating with it's changed because they are open and they are willing. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm still not best friends with nobody, but I think it has given me an opportunity to connect with you and to Lisa and Amber and others who are on like a higher level compared to me.
Just professionally, like in a system, not like in life.
Well, the system is all that they speak, and you know who they is. But, but that has been it's been refreshing because I've gotten so much out of just engaging with you guys. Like I get to do this podcast with you. I'm working now with Elisa on another consulting firm. So like it's been a great opportunity. And I feel like it's pushed a lot of people to their limits. and made a lot of people feel uncomfortable, which made them realize, like, I need to do some deeper digging. I feel like I need to do a little bit more within myself. And I feel like, similar to Natalie, like, I don't have all the answers. We are not monolithic. People of color are not, we don't all have the answer. We don't go, and we ain't all gonna have the same experience or the same answers. But I feel like it's made people do like a little self-reflecting, a little digging. So they have changed, but I think majority for me has been beneficial or positive.
Both are good words. I'm trying to think. Like, you guys made such like comprehensive statements, and I feel like my brain's a little bit more like wonky. I feel like for me, I feel like also pretty close to friends, and like especially my sister. I mean, if anyone really knows me, they know that my sister is like one of the most important people in my life. And I feel like with politics and with like the injustices that have continued to happen this year, it was just like the immediate reaction we all had was the it was nice to see that mirroring, that there was no question of that. But I think where it's differed has been probably my work and like even just like social like spaces, like walking around the neighborhood or something like that, where I feel like people will say things like, especially like I think in regards to the news. So I was raised by two parents who were like obsessed with news. Like you always have to know what's going on. And so I've become like that. Like I'm a news junkie. And so when people just be like, oh, like don't read the news, like, like put a time limit on it so it doesn't agitate you. I was like, no, I'm sorry. Like I can't afford to do that. Like I need to make sure I know what's going on.
Yeah. I love it.
You were saying you love the news?
I love the news. I don't know why, but I just look at it on my app. Like Natalie has said a couple times ago, we had talked. She was like, "Look, my parents have it on all day, every day, but I just like to read my little app and like go on." I do love it.
Yeah, I'm like obsessed with the New York Times briefing. It's like my morning ritual of having coffee and reading the whole thing, and then I send screenshots to everybody I know. So my people love me. I guess one thing that's been hard for me is that since I'm not black and white, and this country is focused on such a black and white division historically, and it's like in the psyche of America, I get put in boxes that I don't choose for myself. And like black and white is the box that didn't exist, right? Like that is created by man. So I have had interactions where people have said that I'm white. I've had interactions where people say I'm black, and it's never, one time it was explicit, and I kind of made that face of like, what? Like, but I get so shocked that I don't even know what to say. Like I just freeze because I feel so like erased by this person.
Right.
And then I've had times when people have equated me with like Hispanic whites. And I'm like, nope, that's actually different. Like somebody who's Hispanic white has an ethnicity and a race, and their race is white. Mm-hmm. But I often can't do that education because it's someone in a position of power. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like I get people's projections. Like they just project whatever they want onto me about their issues with race. Mm-hmm. So it's been a weird place to be.
That's heavy. I think even to add to this a little bit, I also feel like, and I don't know if it's warranted or whatever, but I feel like more hypervigilant. Like probably over the last like 4 or 5 months, like I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. Like I can't tell you where the black people in my neighborhood live, if there are any. And I don't like walking my dog in the front yard no more. I take her in the backyard. I let her use her little bathroom, and I bring her back inside. And now she's anxious and I think a little depressed, but it's just like I don't want to. And this may be totally like left field, but like I don't want you to know. I mean, they know I've been here for 15 years, but like I don't want you to know I live here. I don't want you to know what time I go out. I don't want just leave me be at my own. Like please don't bother me. I don't want no nothing from y'all. And that's been weird to me because we've been in this house for 15 years. Like, it's just, but just small things like that. Like, and my mom was like, we paid a mortgage here. And I'm like, that's your business. I just feel like I've been just super more hyper vigilant, just not to interact with people who don't look like me because I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what can come from it. And I'd rather just avoid it. I'm an avoider. So that's my piece. Sorry, y'all.
No, I'm the same actually. I feel like I've become more hypervigilant too. And I live in a predominantly Black neighborhood. Um, so when I see white people, I'm like, why are you here? Like,
Right.
what you doing? Like, but my boyfriend's white. And what we've noticed is that if I go outside, like everyone says hi to me, I like very nice. But if I go outside with him, it's totally different. People don't want to say hi to us. And so then I'm like, oh shit, Alex, like go walk on that side of the sidewalk. I want to say hi to people.
And it's like also weird because there's like this, I've seen this older couple. I think one of them has either a walker or a, what is it called, a cane. And, but they're older Black people. And it's like, whenever I see them, I'm like, oh my God, hi. But like, when I see the white people, I just be like, I don't see them. I don't see you, your dog. No, I don't see nothing. So like, I feel like for people that look like us, it's almost like bringing a bigger sense of community in a way. Not totally, but in a way.
Not totally.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So
I want Nat to talk, but I
Yeah.
like just to add really quickly.
Sorry, Fran.
No, you're good. I was just trying to think like, have I experienced it? But I actually have, more so because like usually I'm very smiley, and so now because we have to wear the mask, like I'm always like, well, let me make sure that like I'm squinting, so it's like smiling, or like make sure that I say something to someone with like a, like I say hi, so that way they can see. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm a little bit doing that, like overexpressive in that sense, as far as wanting to like verbally address people because they can't see that I'm like okay or that I'm happy or in a good mood. But as far as like neighbors and stuff, our neighbors have always been super nice, always been, we've never had any issues with neighbors or feeling uncomfortable. We're in a very mixed community. So we have those of Asian descent, those that are Black, white, etc., that live around us. So I've never like felt uncomfortable. People are always walking all times of the day and night, waving, saying hi. So none of that has ever felt uncomfortable.
Wow, this sounds like a great neighborhood.
Yeah, it's been really like really, really, really good since we've lived here. We only had one incident, but that was like a while back. I don't know who did it, but somebody put paint on my car when I first bought it. But that's besides the point.
Oh.
But anyway, I think it might have just been some like kids doing stuff because there was like some things happening in the area at that time. But anyway, but yeah, no, don't have any issues with that regard, which is awesome. People have their Biden-Harris signs on their lawns, which is like, yes, affirmation visually. But yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing that I've been hypervigilant about or overexpressive about is like when I see people, because they're already seeing me, they already can't see like what my expression is or how I'm approaching them in a sense. Especially because for me, I like to dress bummy. I have nowhere to be. So if I'm at the grocery store, I'm wearing a hoodie, a hat, and like my sweatpants. So I look like I'm not about nothing. So I feel like I'm already like having to do extra, like overcompensate with like, hello, how are you? Or like at least speaking to them verbally to, show that I'm here, but I'm also like positive and I'm not crazy or trying to do anything crazy. But that's actually very weird now that I think about it. So
yeah, it is. I was like hearing you say it at first. I was like, oh, that's cute. And then I was like, God, but that's more work for you to like maintain like this image of, hey, I'm nice.
Right. And it's very awkward because I'm naturally awkward. So like every time after I do it, I'm like, it's like when someone says, oh, enjoy your food. And you're like, oh, thank you. You too. And it's like, so,
it happened to me on the phone the other day with someone from Lowe's. I was like, oh, have a good shift. And she was like, you too. And I was like, oh, I'm home, but okay, thanks. I was going to say like one thing that, God, and I don't know, maybe you guys will make fun of me and give it to me if I deserve it. But like, I will say that in a way, like only because I talk to Alex so much and I do have white friends, I do see that like people get hyper vigilant now around white people. And I agree with it in a lot of ways and I feel it and do it. But I also, there are good white people, like they aren't all bad, but it's like, it's hard to like, split the hairs. And it also feels weird to say that sometimes.
Yeah.
I know. What do you think? I'm serious about this. Jocelyn, you sighed heavily.
Because to me, it's a little, I don't have the answer. It's a little complicated, I guess, because you don't know anybody's intentions, right? Like, I mean, I feel like our great, wonderful American president, who won't concede or secede, what's the word? Concede? He won't give it up.
Yeah.
Has
I don't know about
definitely,
great and wonderful, but
that
continue.
sarcasm at its finest, has really transformed this nation in a negative way. And I feel like he has allowed people to, not allowed, but has given people the power to be able to showcase their feelings. And I feel like a lot of people, especially like us in our professional environment, may have those feelings at home in their private life amongst their friends, but they're professional, so they have to be professional. So like it concerns me about who I'm interacting with and like what their intentions are. Like when they see me with the natural hair and like Natalie said, with the sweatshirt on and the sweatpants, and I look like I ain't got nowhere to be, do you automatically think that I'm not a master's level educated Black woman? Like do you automatically put me in that box, or do you feel like I should be a product of the school to prison pipeline system? Like, what do you think about me?
Yeah.
Because it seems to be from what I can see as a Black person, a Black woman, it seems to be the majority of thought amongst white people. And I know that's not true. I know for a fact that's not true, but I don't know how to differentiate if I don't know you. So I feel like until you prove to me, or until I can feel comfortable or safe around you, you guilty as far as I'm concerned. That's just me.
You're guilty.
I'm being transparent.
Yeah.
I love it. What about you, Nat?
Yeah, similar. I don't know really. For me, I always give people the benefit of the doubt. So you're good with me until you give me a reason to think otherwise. So it's hard for me to. I know that kind of contradicts what I said earlier about like wanting to be overexpressive. But to be honest, like that overexpressiveness, it's for everybody. Like I want. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to do with that overexpressiveness, but that's something I need to think about because I had never thought about it before today. But yeah, I'm not sure about the question. I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's hard, right? Because
It
feels like, for me, it feels like I'm going against something that like is a little bit like a lightning rod right now, right? Like bringing attention to all of this. But on the other hand, like I'm dating a white man, right?
Yeah.
And then I have friends who are white but of like Jewish descent, which is completely different from some other people who are like, whiteness is also not a monolith.
Yeah.
But it's like it doesn't get talked about, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think I want to ask you something, but I know that you have a question coming up that may tie better for that part of the conversation, so I'm going to hold on that.
You want to ask
But yeah,
me
that was a
like
really good
dating
point.
a white guy?
Yeah. Kind of, but it's going to be a little more specific.
What do you want us to do, Jocelyn? Should we go to the next one, or?
Let's go, y'all. This is who knew? You know? Who knew? We went off on a tangent just now. Yeah, Tanya.
Okay, so we're gonna table Nat's question to me for next time, but I guess the next thing to think about is like we all seem pretty close to our families, and I know Nat, you live with yours right now, but how has COVID, the fact that we can't be with people, we have to physically distance, and for a lot of our family members, it's risky for them because they have pre-existing conditions or they're older. How has it impacted those relationships? So those really, the family you're born with relationships.
Yeah, so for me, we have a big family. So in Memphis, it's my parents and my siblings. Everyone else, like I said, concentrated in the Northeast, or we have a bunch of my dad's family in Florida. And so the thing that's been hard about COVID is, especially whenever I go back to New Jersey, every time I go back, it's like a whole big charade of me going all across these states to see everybody and deliver things for my mom, or, go just to be like respectful of them and make sure that I see them because I'm in the area. I think that's a very cultural thing too. If you're nearby, make plans to go see those people. So I think for me, I was in New Jersey the end of September for a couple of days. And it was hard because I didn't want to tell a bunch of people that I was there because I knew that I was going to guilt myself into wanting to go see them. And of course they would understand that I couldn't do that because of COVID. I just didn't even want to dance around that conversation or even have that conversation. Even with my friends, I didn't tell all my friends that I was going to be up there either. I kept it, whoever I was going to see in my little bubble, that's who I communicated about my travels with. But I think for us, especially because we use the holidays to kind of reconvene. So usually Thanksgiving and Christmas are still pretty small with our family because it's hard for our Northeastern family to come travel for long periods of time because of work schedules. Not everybody has a long, extensive break unless you're like in high school or in college. We have those, longer breaks. So that's usually the harder. So it's usually pretty small around that time anyway. So for us, it was like a regular Thanksgiving or it's going to be a regular Christmas, so to speak. We do have family in Atlanta that sometimes comes and like joins us for the holidays. So that's obviously going to be not the same this year. But I'd say the biggest thing for us was in July, we always have like a big 4th of July where all of our family comes to our house and like does a weekend because all the kids are out of school. The adults can take time off of work. It's a little easier. And summertime is usually always kind of like designated for vacation. So we didn't do that, or we couldn't do that this July. And we don't do it every year, but like we try to do it as often as possible. But like knowing that we couldn't even try to plan for it this year was a little disheartening, especially because like people just couldn't see people anyway. So even if I wanted to travel and go see you, I couldn't do that in the off season. So I think that's been the biggest thing for us. I would also add that we've lost 2 family members. They weren't close to me specifically, but I know on my dad's side, I believe two of his cousins have passed away because of COVID. So just hearing that, like as soon as I heard that, I mean, I always took COVID seriously, especially because it happened when I was living on my own in Charleston. But I think seeing how it's like directly impacting my family, and I hate that it has to come to that for some people where it has to hit you hard before you take it seriously. For me, it hitting me hard was just being frustrated with other people around me and them not taking the situation seriously or them not taking the precautions seriously. But then again, there's another layer of the government not issuing any mandates and all the states being free to do whatever they want. So that's also another story. But I think it's added a level of frustration for me to see how careless other people are about their travels, their gatherings, their social outings, how they choose to kind of live in the world of COVID. Because I've seen that it's taken 2 of our family members' lives. And I know for other people, they may have more like extreme or more close ties to those individuals that may have passed or been drastically affected by it. But I think, again, my close-knit family, we've always been close, so it hasn't really changed anything. It's just strengthened and had me more appreciative of them, again, now that I'm back in the house. But for other family, we've still been creative about keeping in touch. Me and my cousins in my same age group have a group text on Instagram and in like iMessage texting.
That's so
that's
cute.
so that's been good to kind of keep in touch with them that way. And then my dad's side of the family has been doing like Zoom reunions every so often. So it's been nice to see my parents find other ways to connect with family members aside from just ad hoc phone calls. But yeah, that's how it's been going for me. How's it been for you?
Family. I mean, my family's not like yours. It's a lot more split and divided. So unfortunately it got more split with COVID. So I think like everyone's kind of isolated and on their own. Like I'm really close with my immediate family, which is like my mom, my sister, and my dad. But even the 4 of us are all in our own places. And so I don't know, it's been really hard. Like I just feel like I talk to them a lot more probably than I did in COVID, but I also feel a lot more pressure to be available and to take care of my parents than I did before. I also have a family. I've had multiple family members like get COVID in India. And one we were really worried about, but she got better. But then like actually my boyfriend's family, a lot of people in his family have gotten COVID and one's like not doing amazing. So I feel like I also get really angry. Like when I see people without a mask, like I saw someone the other day in the store and I just like, I can't like help but stay still and give him the stank eye for like a minute. Cause I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're just so selfish. Like, do you realize people are losing so many others because of this and you can't wear a mask like for 20 minutes in a grocery store? And I can like, you can tell I'm getting angry because I just like, I don't think the numbers like are hitting people sometimes, or not anymore, because it's been like a year of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm lucky that I have a lot of my family still doing okay, but I can't imagine what it's like for families that are closer than mine to lose someone. Like, it's just so painful, and then to not be able to mourn together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had for one of our family members, they did the viewing of the funeral via Zoom, which is like cryptic and not cryptic necessarily, but I've always because before the COVID, I used to see social media posts about like, why are you live streaming at your grandma's funeral? Like just things that
Yeah.
people were just doing like just to do it back then. But now it's like that's the only way people can participate. And it's just been I didn't necessarily was able to participate in that with the family, but it's just sad that we have the means to go travel and be there with you, but we can't because we like literally it's against the law or whatever's happening in the state or the area at the time. But it's great that more people are able to participate or were able to participate because you were able to like put the call out to more family than you possibly could if you were expecting everybody to kind of reconvene in person. But yeah, that's been really sad. Like people having to pass on their own or having to grieve on their own or or not being able to reconnect with other family members in a time of grief. That's been really heart-wrenching for me to see.
Yeah. How about you, Jocelyn?
Well, I just want to start by saying, Natalie, that I'm sorry that your family has lost people due to COVID. And similar to what Tanya said, I don't think that people recognize or they don't take it seriously until they lose somebody personally. Luckily, we're in the healthcare fields, like we get it. We get the science and the data and the facts.
Mm-hmm.
We get it. I've had family members be diagnosed, but thankfully, gratefully, I haven't lost anybody due to COVID. Similar to Natalie, my cousins and I have tried our best to remain connected. We did like several Zooms where we got cousins that we haven't seen in forever together, just because, like you said, we have that flexibility and things like that. It's heavy. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, I even asked my mom and Sean like last maybe a week or two ago. I'm like, where did we miss the mark? Like we've had swine flu, we've had Ebola, like things that could have been as big or as pronounced as this. But I mean, we know where we missed the mark because hello. But like how like how are we here? Why are we still here? And I don't want to talk about it because I don't I thought I want to talk about COVID, but then I changed my mind because I can't. Because I'll be done on to something else.
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't say this explicitly, but I'm also really sorry to hear that you've lost two people in your family.
I appreciate that from both of you. I appreciate that. And it was very early on too, but regardless, it was still like, whoa, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So yes, we're going to continue to talk about COVID, but in a more positive or like interesting way. So I'm single. Tanya's dating, and Jocelyn is on her way to the altar. So I would love to know about your dating experience during COVID. And Tanya, the question I was going to ask for you is both during COVID and also with like the racial issues that were coming up in like May or June, have you felt like in your relationship you've had to like explain things more to your boyfriend than you may have done in the past, or like has any of that had an impact where you had to like change the way you communicated with him about certain things? And just generally, how are you both staying connected aside from like being together all the time during COVID?
Yeah, these are good questions. I love to talk about this stuff. So I want to make sure I answer all your questions. So yes, we talk about race all the time because he's white and I'm brown. And I grew up in a culture, basically in a culture that thought that if you could get a white boyfriend or a white girlfriend, it meant that like you were even more attractive because you could get somebody white. And I definitely like felt that a lot with him because I hadn't dated somebody white in a while. And so sometimes I wouldn't say things or do things around him because I assumed it was like I still had this shame, right, about being brown. And he would point it out to me. And so that was kind of weird where I was like, wait, like, why are you noticing that I don't want to eat like with my hands around you because like I don't want you to think I'm like barbaric or something like that.
Interesting.
But I did have to like teach Alex a ton. Like he didn't know a lot about my culture. He like tried to learn a lot on his own, and like you know, I will say like I love Alex. He's like means so much to me.
Shout out to Alex.
And I'm really like lucky to have somebody who's like not only a psychologist but also like incredibly aware of all of like of racial issues and has been for a long time. Like he was born and raised in Chicago, so like he's not, you know, from the middle of nowhere and doesn't know anything. But yeah, we did have to talk about a lot of things. Like I think I notice things a lot faster, whether it's something on television, whether it's something on the streets, whether it's something online. And I react much more strongly than Alex. Like I think he kind of is like, oh, like he'll get upset, but he doesn't get as upset as me usually.
Yeah.
And then like I have to talk about it with him of why it's so angering or why it's so sad. So that has come up a lot between us, but I think he feels powerless a lot of the time. Like he got really pissed with everything that was going on this summer, all the racial injustice, but he's a dude. And so I feel like men are just like, oh, if I can't break it, like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
And so like, I think like he would kind of get like that. And I'm like much more of a female mindset. I'm a woman. And I just feel like you can't do anything by like getting pissed about this in that way. Like you have to do something that changes the way it works.
Right.
So we had lots of conversations about that. Does that answer your question? Did I get all of it?
And I have another question for you that's a little bit more positive. What have you guys been doing to like, as far as like dating, like have you done like more creative dates because of COVID? What have you been doing to kind of keep the spark alive?
The spark. I've been so lazy. I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh shit, should I dress up a little bit more so Alex is still into me? We did do like a date night for like our 1 year anniversary, and that was really nice. We got dinner at the first place that we had our date. And that was a ton of fun. And we've been doing like little getaways. You guys know I like to hike, so we went to Asheville and went hiking. But actually, it's kind of been nicer that there's not that much pressure. Like that we're kind of like, yeah, let's just hang out in our pajamas and watch TV and like make popcorn. And like, I don't know, there's something kind of like freeing about that like we don't have to perform.
Yeah. That's good. What about you, Jocelyn? How is dating now that you're engaged been? Well, one, have you felt a change in your relationship since being engaged? And then two, well, actually I have 3 questions for you. So one, that was that one. 2, how have you and your fiance kind of kept things interesting and spark alive? And then 3, how has wedding planning been going? Or have you just been like, wait for 2021. I don't have the time for this right now.
Wait,
I'll forget.
And time out. We also didn't say that Sean is your fiance. I feel like we keep saying his name, and like people are gonna be like, "Who's Sean?"
Yes. His name is Stephen. His middle name is Deshaun. So I might call him Stephen, depending on how I feel. I might call him Sean when I'm in a better mood. But he's Stephen when I'm not really feeling him, and he's Sean on a good day.
Yes. Okay. So let me recap. Did you get all the questions?
I got all the questions.
Did you write them down?
I didn't have a chance. I didn't. What was the first one again? So how? Wait. So how had? Go ahead.
How has your relationship changed as being engaged?
Okay. A lot. There has been, I think, a lot more expectations coming from each of us. Just like what, so I'm gonna tie in the second question, which I think is like, what have you guys done to like keep things spicy? So I had a birthday a couple weeks ago. He took me to Hall's Chop House. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hall's downtown. And it was like super nice and the ambiance and blah, blah, blah. I've never been. I went once with Good Stuff last year, but I think I ordered like some calamari. It was something. It was for lunch. I don't know. And so we went, and you know, his daughter's birthday came and went last weekend, and that was interesting. And so we decided, so I told him, I was like, I don't think we've ever had a conversation about expectations. Like, like for me as a future stepmother, what do you expect me as a future wife? What do we expect from each other as now cohabitants and roommates? Because I need you to pick that up. I need you to close that door, and I need you to keep it at least fairly decently tidy. And so we sat here in the office, and we played, like, I want to call it elevator music. He played some artists, but the music was like so like very similar to Hall's Chop House. And he was like, oh my God, I thought we're back in Hall's. And so we decided that we're gonna call that moment of connection, and whenever we want to sit down and talk with the ambiance music, we're gonna say that we're going to Hall's Chop House, right? COVID style.
That's so cute.
That's
So
cute.
that's the best we can do, y'all. That's the best. And we have played a lot more video games. So he has got me into video games. It's been almost a little obsessive for me. Like for the first probably 6 to 8 weeks, I was playing the video games.
Dang, Jocelyn.
It was bad, y'all. It was really, really bad. I've gotten good. Like I've gotten fairly good. But we can talk about that at the time. Cause my research team in San Francisco, like when we get on our little small call, like they know I love to talk about these little funky behind video games.
Look, there's nothing wrong with video games.
Look, I love them. They're obsessive. They're weirdly obsessive.
Oh my God, we all like video games?
Well, I don't mind people. Like I like watching people play, and I'm very competitive, whether I'm good at it or not. So I'm gonna jump in like I'm gonna beat you, or I'm gonna get you, and I'm just like trash. But I don't mind, because I've always, like, all my cousins, my siblings, we've all played video games growing up. So I'm definitely not one of those people like, you're too old to be playing video games. Like, if that's all you're doing all day, every day, and you're not making an income from it, then yeah, that's a problem.
Same.
Yeah.
I grew up playing video games too, but Alex is like still into them, and I also played a little like you, Jocelyn. Like, all right, let's do it. It's COVID.
If you guys want to play, if y'all want to play Apex Legends, send me a gamer tag. Do that, because I am all about it.
See, that just
I know, same. I was like, that's the next topic.
Oh,
right.
it's a good game, y'all. It's a good game. I love it. It's almost like Call of Duty, and like it's like a sophisticated version of Fortnite. We'll talk about it.
Okay. Let's go back to like you and Sean.
Yeah. So wedding planning.
Wedding planning is it's going. We got the major stuff. I put a hold on it because my bridesmaids and them are getting on my nerves, and I don't want to talk to them no more about it. I don't want to talk about it. It really ain't the process. It ain't the people. It's my bridesmaids. They work my nerves. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I ain't gonna say nothing else to that. But it's been good. We're on the way. We got October next year. So I'm gonna look out for the invitation. So it's been good.
Well, that's good. So as the resident single person on the call.
Yes, Nat. Wait. We gotta see if Jocelyn and I have questions. We gotta like make sure she writes it down.
What do I have? I don't have questions.
You don't have questions for Nat?
Have you been using apps?
So yes, and I'm gonna segue to that in a moment.
Okay. I know that's prominent these days. So.
I've been like entertaining someone, I'll say, right before COVID. Actually, he came to see me for the first time. So let me backtrack. We met at a function, and I don't think I saw him because I had my glasses off, and if I have my glasses off, I can't see or hear apparently. So according to his story, he tried to say something to me, but I like swerved him. But my story is I didn't see or hear you because my glasses were off. But anyway, we connected on social media and ended up seeing each other in early March, like the week before people were like really wearing masks, and before like it was like, okay, everybody stay in the house. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so that was a little frustrating because, you know, you meet this person and you really connect with them, and then now you can't see each other at all. And the worst part on top of that was I was supposed to be in New York from like March to October for a program that through an investor that our startup company got into, and we were going to be in New York. So I was like, oh, perfect, because he's based up north, and like I was like, we can like continue this up there. Like this would be perfect. We don't have to do the long distance thing for like too long of a time. Like I'll be up there for a long period of time to where we can continue to connect. But of course, all that went virtual, and so it was like nothing but still I went back up north in September. But that was interesting because, well, it was good or reaffirming in a way because we both like to talk on the phone. We both love FaceTiming, and I'm so glad because I've been dealing with people in the past that, oh, just text me or like, I
No.
don't like texting. Like I'm very well. One thing about me that's a little bit of a weird thing is I obsess over voices. So
Oh.
there are people that I love simply because I love their voice. So yes, I like talking on the phone and I like FaceTiming. So it was really nice to see that not like be a thing that was done just to kind of reel me in. So it was
Mm-hmm.
nice that it was natural for the both of us to continue to connect that way. But yeah, it's definitely been frustrating not being able to like continue to, I mean, we continue to communicate, but to be able to continue to see how that can like progress or like move forward in like more real time and like see how each other is in person versus, you know, seeing how each other interacts on the phone because it's two completely different scenarios. Going into the dating app question, I have like dusted off my dating apps, but I also a few weeks after sunsetted them yet again. So I used a dating app for the first time when I first moved out to Memphis in 2012, 2013. And actually met my one of my boyfriends or one of my exes when I was out here through that dating app, and it was fine. The relationship was fine. He just ended up being like a liar and a weirdo. So it's not the app's fault. It's just, you know, he just. Ugh. Um, and for me, I'm always been like the fairy tale, like romanticizing how I'm gonna meet my future partner. We're in a grocery store. I'm reaching for an apple. He's reaching for the same apple. Our hands touch. You know, the whole like, girl,
You
come
hear
on.
his voice and it's perfect.
Literally, that's the scenario I tell everybody. But yes, that's like my ideal, like, yes, this is the story I want to tell all of our children or whatever the case is. But it's like, girl, move on.
Oh my God, I'm so the opposite. I've always been like, oh, I don't want to get married. This is like so annoying.
But then when I moved back, I was like, well, I haven't been, because I was really excited to move back to kind of reacclimate myself back with the city and connect with friends again and kind of get back into the social circles. But of course, COVID, da da da. Um, so I was like, well, what's another way for me to kind of meet people, but also kind of see like what the pool of dating applicants is in the area again. So I went back on, what's the dating app that I was using? Ooh, Hinge. One of my best friends
Mm.
I was
told me
about
to
to
get
say
on
it better
Hinge.
be Bumble. So I know we talking.
No, I used Bumble when I was in Charleston, and that was. I just think it's the area and the pool of people that are available
Oh
that
my
meet me.
God, it's terrible.
It's
Made
horrible,
one when I moved here and I was like, this is the selection? Like,
right? And then you look around and you see all these great married guys. Like, okay, so where are your friends? Where are like the people you are on the same level with? But anyway, um, I went on to Hinge, met someone. They're just like, and I'm not petty or I'm not, I try not to be like, oh my gosh, you don't meet all the like I have a list, of course, because I have standards. So I have a list,
You
and
love
there's
it.
like, so I have a list, and it's definitely like not it's not unreasonable and by any means, but there are just certain things that like that are important to me as far as like characteristics or like what you find funny or what you say about certain things, especially when they're cultural related. So I just was not vibing with this person when we met. Nice guy, cool, but it just wasn't for me, especially since he didn't follow up after we met up or when had our little date or
mm.
whatever. That was just like, okay, you could have at least said something. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't think dating apps are for me. I think they're a good tool and I've seen it work successfully for a lot of people, but I think for me, I get very anxious about like, okay, does this match who they actually are in person? What am I gonna find out in person? What are like, have I done my due diligence as far as research and gone through whatever I could find to make sure I don't have any surprises, you know, as we're getting to know each other. But it's been interesting, definitely hard, definitely challenging, but we'll see what happens.
Well, go ahead, Tanya.
No, you go. I saw you start too.
I was just gonna say, Natalie, you a little intimidating. So if you do meet somebody in person, girl, they probably knew that they wasn't in that. So and don't you look? You better shine, girl. You better shine.
I will.
But
Because
you,
if they're not here, they're somewhere else. So
but you are a little intimidating, girl. You got that. You got that thing everybody need, but don't know how to handle. So.
ain't my business.
Now, I was gonna ask you, do you feel like relationships have gotten faster, like when you've even talked to the person over the phone and FaceTime because of COVID? Like they progress faster than if it was a non-COVID world?
I don't think so. I think for me, I for some reason I feel like I always like quick click with people really quickly. Even my last relationship, we both were like, "Are we moving too fast?" And I was like, "It feels right to me." So I've kind of steered away from like the time span or the speed of the development of the relationship because for me, if it's working, then it's working. But no, I don't think it's been like sped up at all because of COVID. I think um, it's given me a lot more room to like think. And I think even both of our personalities, the person I was telling you about that I still talk to, we're both very like, we don't have to, I don't want to talk to you every day, not because I don't like you, but we don't have to. And like, I will reach out when I want to, or I'll let you know that I'm missing you when I'm missing you. We don't have to like, we need to check in every day. Like, what are you doing? Where were you? Cause for me, it just keeps it, like I said, it's the same with my friendships. Like we don't have to touch base every single day, but when we want to talk, we'll talk. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's sped it up at all. I think it's definitely slowed it down. It slowed it down in the sense that we haven't really gotten to see each other's like personalities really shine in like the physical sense as far as, oh, what kind of activities do you like doing, or what's something silly that like I noticed that you do, or like something that you like how you react to certain things. You know, you don't really get that talking on the phone. You can get that a little more with FaceTime, but still it's like a very controlled environment because I'm in my room, I'm in home, so there's not really much any external factors affecting how I'm feeling. But no, I think, yeah, I don't think there's a speeding up or a slowing down for me because, like I said, if it feels good, then I'm going to keep going on that path. But I think it's definitely um, given us both time to like think about things and like me reevaluate what I want in a partner, and am I settling? Am I not settling? What are the like going back to like my non-negotiables, etc. Um, but yeah, you know, I've always had like when we're all younger, we always had like, oh, by the time I'm 21, I'm gonna have all of this in place. I'm gonna have my house and a kid or whatever. And it's like, that's not how it works.
21 was a decade ago.
Right.
Oh my
Yes, a decade ago. So yeah, we'll see. I'm enjoying like whatever space it is that I'm in now, and hopeful for progression and like something that's meant for me to be presented to me, whether it's with the person I'm communicating with or with someone new. But yeah, definitely in tune with me right now.
Come on.
Jocelyn, can I ask one more question or do we need to switch gears?
Oh, come on, Tanya. What you got?
Okay, so I'm curious for both of you, and I'm losing my voice apparently, but I've dated like black, brown, white, all these different types of men and women, and I feel like I'm curious, would you guys ever date somebody of a different race, or have you, or?
I'll answer. So I'm attracted to everybody, but dating, no, I've never like I've been asked that like, oh, would you date outside your race? And because for me, dating like it's not just dating for fun; it's dating because I want to move on to something else. I just never pictured myself starting a family with someone outside of my race. Um, I think it was also even a question for me, like, do I want to date somebody outside of like my nationality or my culture? Like my family's
Mm.
from Haiti, so it was like, oh, do I need to date somebody from Haiti? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like they can be, but I'm not like specifically looking for them to be that. But I think for me, I've always found myself like just I've been surrounded by Black love my whole life, so I don't know. I can't like I don't know how to strive for anything other than that. And again, that doesn't mean that there's like a prototype for Black love, but I think I just love. I don't know. Like it's just like what I always imagine myself. Anytime somebody asks me that question, I imagine myself sleeping and then looking over. Like what am I thinking? And how am I in that moment? And what am I thinking? So usually for me, what that means is I have a do-rag on or a bonnet on, or my hair is matted up on one side and fluffed out on the other. Um, One, how comfortable am I with that person? And again, it doesn't have to be, this isn't restrictive to Black men, but for me, there's just something different about being like having those parameters and waking up and rolling over and seeing your partner and then like it just being okay. Like the person I'm talking to, like I'm always in a do-rag when I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm always in a bonnet, and I never feel like weird or like, oh, put yourself together every once in a while. That's always been a good feeling for me. So I don't think I would see myself dating anyone outside my race just because I don't see that for me in marriage. But I'm sure I'm attracted to anybody. If you look good, you look, especially if you have a nice voice. Remember that? But yeah, I think I find all kinds of people attractive. But as far as dating, because I want to date seriously and for progression, I see myself dating just Black men.
I like that.
I like that. I have had two white boyfriends in my life. One was in 8th grade, one was in 9th grade. The 9th grade one was a little bit more serious. I put him in my pool of exes. You know, like you got a pool of exes, like everybody before a certain time don't really count. I count him. I do count him. We were together for a couple years. And he was awesome. He was half white, half Mexican, and I loved his family. We were cool. Like we had a thing. It was cool. But I feel like now in my life, even pre-Sean, that would be really hard. Like, not impossible, because I like mixed people. My niece is mixed, but in terms of kids, you know what I mean. But I like thinking about your experience, Tanya. Like, what do those conversations look like? Like, if I'm likely not dating somebody who's a psychiatrist or somebody who may be woke, right? Like, I ain't here to train you. I ain't here to train you. I ain't here to make you understand. If you say something out crazy, I'm cuss you out. It's gonna be what it is. So now in my life, no. That the last time I dated somebody who was not Black was in high school, and that just hasn't worked that way. I wouldn't be opposed to it if it wasn't Sean, but it definitely wasn't something I'd be looking for in my adult life.
That's fair. I'm just curious because, like, I mean, it's different. It's totally different for everyone. And you're allowed to want what you want and allowed to have what you want.
What about you, Frank?
I mean, it's different. I didn't grow up as a Black woman. Like, I don't think race was the first thing people saw when they looked at me. Like, they saw it, but they first saw that I was an immigrant child, right? That I didn't belong in that way. So when I was young, I only thought I would end up with somebody Indian because I was just like, I don't know anybody else who dates Indians except Indians.
Right.
But I think as I got older, I like dated people who were no longer Indian. Like probably it started in college, like or even after college. And then I started realizing that like I could learn more about other people's cultures and like I could talk about it. And I think the unfortunate thing is that like, so Indian love, brown love is not as pretty. Like there's a lot of trauma and sexism within Indian marriages, and they tend to be arranged. My parents were arranged. And so it's just, you kind of like despise it, like grow up despising it a little. And so I think I started realizing that when I wasn't dating Indian men, sometimes, not always, I didn't have to deal with some of those like sexist cultural aspects. Like it was true that all the Indian men I dated, their moms treated them like little kings and even called them that, like little rajas is what they call them. And Raja means king. And they're like, they were spoiled, you know? And it was like, there was an assumption they had about brown women. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like I saw my mom do this and it wasn't cool. And I've seen everybody else I know it's a woman. So I guess that's part of it for me. And I guess I genuinely believe that like you can understand other people's cultures if you give enough time and attention. So it might be a little Pollyanna of me, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
That's fair. Like you said, everybody want what they want. They want.
To all our listeners, we are going to do this thing kind of each time we have an episode where we're going to like shout out to a business or a person or someone that we've kind of encountered recently that's doing something really cool. And we want to take the time to acknowledge them here. So this is going to be our shout out segment, and I'm going to let Jocelyn start first.
Oh, me first. Okay. So, I have on this really cute headband. Can y'all see it? Hello?
Yes.
So my friend has created a accessories business. It's called Pretty Complicated Boutique. You can just Google it. Pretty Complicated Boutique LLC. This is the headband from their collection. It's called Bougie. Go and check them out. Holla at your girl. That's my shout out. Go Shaquanda.
Go Shaquanda.
Super cute.
Nat, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I'm going to shout out on the same vein of our conversation today about relationships. Latrice Nwosu, she is an international relationship specialist, and I met her through one of my good friends, of which she's actually her therapist. And so Latrice is a relationship, couple, marriage therapist, and she has a business called Connecting to Love. And the great thing about that is on her website, there's actually a bunch of like worksheets and things you can purchase and kind of complete both for like self-love and self-reflection, but also examining how you approach external relationships as well. So if anyone's interested, feel free to check her out. On all social media, it's Connecting the number 2 and Love, Love. So she has a bunch of great resources. She shares a bunch of great tips on social media as far as like things to look out for how you're evaluating yourself and how you look at others. And every once in a while, she's done some things on Facebook where she's had like Facebook Live sessions, kind of like therapy sessions in a sense. For someone who's never done therapy formally, that's how it's been for me engaging with her in that sense, because you can ask questions and get answers in real time. But it's been really, really nice to kind of get, that external perspective, which is what people typically seek therapy for, to get an external, unbiased opinion from someone who doesn't already have an insight or perspective on you as an individual. But yeah, she's been really great, and her resources are awesome and great, just like tools just to have on hand as you navigate life and adulthood.
And what's her name again, Nat? I missed her last name.
Yep, Latrice Nwosu, Nwosu. The first name is Latrease.
Okay, I'm going to check her out after this. So my shout out is something that I found out pretty recently.
I was just going to say, you can connect to Connecting to Love on social media at Connecting the number 2 Love. Connecting to Love on social media.
Okay, my bad. I also was like cutting out for a sec, so I was like, okay, I'm back. So my shout out is for something I found out kind of recently this week through my grad school listserv, actually. So it is a psychotherapy group, so therapy practice called NYC Affirmative Psychotherapy, and that's their website name too. And it's basically BIPOC folk who are giving therapy, and they like prefer clientele of the same. Yeah.
What is that?
Black, Indigenous, people of color. Oh, you were just asking me to.
Yeah.
For the listeners.
Yeah.
I was just like, Jocelyn, you know. And all the therapists are from minority backgrounds. And so it's nice because they also have a sliding scale. And that is usually like a problem with getting access to therapy. So check it out. If you don't like them, there are so many great therapists out there. And I'm always happy to be a resource for navigating that.
Also to add, if you do go on NYC Affirmative Psychotherapy's website and look at Meet the Team, they are totally diverse. I mean, they look like they touch on every different spectrum that you can think of. So if you're looking for that welcoming, open platform, they definitely are someone that you might want to consider. Well, I think that ends our first table talk breaking bread. Our first table talk breaking bread session. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You'll catch us next month. Let us know if there's anything you want to touch on, any feedback that you have for us. I definitely had fun tonight, so I'm looking forward to this next month. And that's all I got. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.